The human student saved the princess, and she chose him as her eternal guardian. Part 1. The Galactic Unity Academy floated in the darkness of space like a small moon. It was the most famous school in the known universe. The children of emperors, kings, and powerful leaders from 100 different worlds came here to learn. They studied diplomacy, science, and the arts of leadership. Everyone who graduated from this place went on to shape the future of their species. Park. Jinho stood at the observation window and watched a transport ship dock at the station. He was 22 years old, average height, with black hair that never stayed in place no matter how much he tried to fix it. He wore the standard gray uniform of the academy, but unlike most students, he had no family crest or royal symbol on his chest. He was just a human. Nothing special. Nothing important. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago. Before that, Earth was just another primitive planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Most alien species still looked at humans the way humans might look at clever animals. Interesting, perhaps, but not equals. Never equals. There were only 3 human students at the academy. Jinho was the quietest of them. He studied xenobiology because he found alien life fascinating. He kept his head down, did his work, and tried not to attract attention. Attention usually meant trouble for humans. The transport ship finished docking, and Jinho heard excited voices behind him. Students were gathering near the main entrance hall. He turned to see what the commotion was about. A tall Cathari student with green scales and sharp teeth pushed past him without a glance. 2 Valmorian girls with wings folded against their backs hurried after him. Everyone seemed to be heading in the same direction. Jinho followed out of curiosity. The entrance hall was already crowded when he arrived. Students from dozens of species stood in loose groups, all facing the main doors. Security officers in formal armor lined the walls. This was not a normal arrival. The doors opened, and Princess Valindra Sorth walked in. Jinho had seen pictures of her in news broadcasts, but pictures did not capture what she looked like in person. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly from within. She had 4 slender arms, each moving with perfect elegance. Her eyes were large and deep purple, like pools of liquid amethyst. She wore a simple white gown that somehow looked more expensive than anything Jinho had ever seen. Behind her came her entourage. Advisors in flowing robes, guards in ceremonial armor. A female attendant with similar silver skin walked closest to the princess, watching everything with suspicious eyes. Princess Valindra was the heir to the Sorth Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful kingdoms in the galaxy. Her family had ruled for 10,000 years. She was here for a semester of diplomatic studies, and every ambitious student in the academy saw this as an opportunity. Over the next few days, Jinho watched the circus unfold. Noble sons and daughters from powerful families found excuses to speak with the princess. They offered gifts. They made grand gestures. They competed with each other to gain her attention. The most aggressive was Prince Kaluth of the Varaxian Empire. He was a massive creature, nearly 7 feet tall, with armored plates covering his body and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. His species were warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the galactic peace. Kaluth acted like he had already won whatever game he was playing. He spoke to Valindra as if their alliance was inevitable, as if she had no choice. Jinho noticed how the princess smiled politely at everyone but never relaxed. Her shoulders stayed tense. Her eyes always watched the exits. She was performing, not living. He recognized that look. He had worn it himself many times when surrounded by species that considered him inferior. One afternoon, Jinho was walking through the academy gardens when he saw the princess sitting alone on a bench. This was strange. She was never alone. Her attendant, Lady Marisol, was always nearby. But right now, Valindra was by herself, staring at a small data tablet in her hands. As Jinho passed, a gust of recycled air from the ventilation system knocked the tablet from her grip. It clattered to the ground and slid across the path, stopping at Jinho's feet. He picked it up. For a moment, he hesitated. Most students would use this chance to introduce themselves, to try to make an impression. They would bow deeply and speak flowery words and hope the princess remembered their name. Jinho just walked over and held out the tablet. Valindra looked up at him. Her purple eyes studied his face. She was clearly waiting for the speech, the flattery, the request for her attention. Jinho said nothing. He just waited for her to take the tablet. She took it. Her fingers brushed against his for a moment. Her skin was cool, like touching smooth stone. Jinho nodded once and turned to walk away. He heard her voice behind him, soft and surprised. "You do not wish to tell me your name?" Jinho stopped but did not turn around. "You have enough people telling you their names. You looked like you wanted to be alone." He walked away before she could respond. That evening, in the dining hall, Jinho overheard some senior students discussing Sorath customs. They were talking about something called the Eternal Guardian. In Sorath culture, a princess could choose one person to be her protector and closest companion for life. It was the highest honor in their society. The Eternal Guardian was not a servant or a soldier. They were something more. A partner, a trusted shadow, someone who would stand beside the princess through everything. The tradition had not been invoked in generations. Most thought it was forgotten. Jinho did not think much about it. Such things were not for humans. 3 days later, he was leaving the library when he saw something that made him stop. In a quiet corridor near the restricted section, Prince Kaloth had cornered Princess Valindra. His massive body blocked her path. Lady Marisol was nowhere in sight. Kaloth was speaking in a low voice, but Jinho could hear his words clearly. "Your father will see reason eventually. Our empires were meant to unite. You can make this easy, or you can make this difficult. But the result will be the same." Valindra's voice was steady, but Jinho could see her hands trembling. "I have made my position clear, Prince Kaloth. Please let me pass." Kaloth did not move. He leaned closer. "Think carefully, Princess. Accidents happen to those who make unwise choices." Then he stepped aside and walked away, leaving Valindra alone in the corridor. She did not move for a long moment. Her forearms wrapped around herself as if she was cold. Jinho watched from the shadows. He had seen that kind of fear before. It was not the fear of a single moment. It was the fear of someone who knew danger was coming and could not stop it. He should have walked away. This was not his problem. He was just a human student. He had no power, no influence, no way to help. But something in his chest would not let him forget the look on her face. Something was very wrong, and Jinho had a feeling it was only going to get worse. The human student saved the princess, and she chose him as her eternal guardian part. Jinho could not stop thinking about what he had seen in that corridor. The threat in Prince Kaloth's voice. The fear in Princess Valindra's eyes. He told himself it was none of his business. He was a human student with no connections and no power. What could he possibly do against a Viraxian prince? But the thoughts kept coming back. He started paying attention to the gossip around the academy. Students talked constantly, and if you listened carefully, you could learn a lot. What Jinho learned made his stomach turn cold. The Viraxian royal family had a reputation. They always got what they wanted. When diplomatic pressure failed, accidents happened. Important people who opposed them would fall ill mysteriously. Ships carrying enemies would suffer mechanical failures. Witnesses would disappear. No one could ever prove anything. The Viraxians were too careful. But everyone knew Jinho also learned that Princess Valindra had refused Prince Kailath's proposal 3 times already. Her father, the Sarth King, supported her decision. The Sarth Dominion did not need the Viraxian alliance. They were powerful enough on their own, but Prince Kailath did not accept rejection. To him, it was only a delay. A week after the incident in the corridor, the Academy announced a special field expedition. Senior students would travel to a nearby planet to study its unique ecosystem. The planet was called Verath 7, a world of dense jungles and ancient ruins. Princess Valindra was on the list of participants. So was Prince Kailath. So was Jinho. The transport ship was large and comfortable, designed to carry 50 students and their instructors. Jinho sat in a back corner and watched everyone through half-closed eyes. He saw Valindra sitting with Lady Marisol near the front. He saw Kailath surrounded by his Viraxian followers in the middle section. Kailath kept glancing at the princess. His 4 eyes never showed emotion, but there was something hungry in the way he watched her. The journey was supposed to take 6 hours. At the 4-hour mark, the lights flickered. An alarm sounded. The pilot's voice came over the speakers, tight with controlled panic. All passengers, please remain calm. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Prepare for emergency landing procedures. Students began shouting. Some prayed to their various gods. Others just screamed. Jinho stayed still. He watched Kailath. The prince did not look surprised. He did not look worried. He looked satisfied. This was no accident. The ship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Vara 7. Through the windows, Jinho could see flames licking at the hull. The descent was too fast. Too steep. When they hit the ground, everything went black. Jinho woke to pain and confusion. He was lying on soft earth, surrounded by twisted metal and broken trees. The ship had torn apart on impact, scattering wreckage across a wide area of jungle. He could hear screaming in the distance. He could smell smoke and blood. He checked his body. Cuts and bruises everywhere. His left arm hurt badly, probably sprained. But nothing was broken. He could move. He stood up slowly and looked around. The jungle was thick and dark, the trees rising hundreds of feet into the sky. Strange sounds echoed from every direction. Clicks and howls and things he could not identify. He was alone. No, not completely alone. He heard voices nearby. Female voices. One was crying. Jinho pushed through the undergrowth and found them in a small clearing. Princess Valindra knelt on the ground, her white gown torn and stained with dirt. Beside her lay Lady Marisol, unconscious and bleeding from a wound on her head. Valindra looked up when she heard Jinho approach. For a moment, fear flashed in her eyes. Then she recognized him. "The human?" she said. Her voice was shaking. "The one who returned my tablet." Jinho nodded and knelt beside Lady Marisol. He checked her pulse. Still alive, but weak. The head wound was serious. "We need to stop the bleeding," he said. He tore a strip from his own shirt and pressed it against the wound. "Hold this. Keep pressure on it." Valindra did as he instructed. Her 4 hands were trembling, but she did not hesitate. "What happened?" she asked. "The ship. Sabotage," Jinho said quietly. "The systems were tampered with." Valindra's eyes widened. "Kailath." It was not a question. Jinho nodded. "We need to move. The rescue teams will come, but we cannot stay here. This jungle is dangerous." As if to prove his point, a roar echoed through the trees. Something large was moving in the darkness, drawn by the smell of blood. Jinho helped Valindra lift Lady Marisol. The older woman was heavier than she looked, but Jinho's human muscles were stronger than most species expected. He carried most of her weight on his shoulders. They moved through the jungle as quietly as possible. Valindra stayed close, her forearms wrapped protectively around herself. She was clearly not used to this kind of situation. She had lived her whole life in palaces and government buildings. The wild was completely foreign to her. Jinho was different. He had grown up on Earth. He had camped in forests and climbed mountains. He had learned to move quietly and read the signs of predators. These skills were worthless in the civilized galaxy, but here, they might save their lives. The first attack came without warning. A creature burst from the undergrowth. It was like a spider made of blades, with 8 legs ending in curved claws and a mouth full of needle teeth. It leaped at Valindra with killing speed. Jinho moved faster. He dropped Lady Marisol and threw himself between the creature and the princess. His hand found a broken branch on the ground, thick and heavy. He swung it with all his strength. The blow connected. The creature tumbled backward, shrieking in pain. Jinho did not hesitate. He attacked again, driving the sharp end of the branch into the creature's body. It took 3 strikes before it stopped moving. Jinho stood over the dead thing, breathing hard. His hands were covered in alien blood. His whole body was shaking with adrenaline. Valindra stared at him like she had never seen anything like him before. "You!" She started. Another roar. Closer this time. More of them were coming. Jinho picked up Lady Marisol again. "We have to keep moving." They ran. Or at least, they moved as fast as they could with an unconscious woman between them. The jungle seemed endless. The sounds of predators followed them constantly. 2 more creatures attacked. Jinho killed them both. By the time they found a cave to hide in, his arms were covered in scratches and his makeshift weapon was broken. He was exhausted beyond anything he had ever felt. But they were alive. Lady Marisol was still unconscious, but her breathing was stronger. Valindra had managed to use some basic medical supplies from her emergency kit to treat the worst of the wound. They sat in the darkness of the cave, listening to the sounds of the jungle outside. "Why?" Valindra asked finally. "Why did you fight for us? You could have run. You could have saved yourself." Jinho thought about the question. He was not sure he had a good answer. "You needed help," he said simply. "I was there." Valindra was silent for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised him. "Among my people, there are those who would have demanded payment for such service. Favors, influence, power. You ask for nothing." "I do not want anything from you," Jinho said. "That," Valindra said quietly, "is exactly why I trust you." The sound of engines interrupted them. Not jungle creatures this time. Ships, flying low over the trees. Rescue had arrived. But as Jinho looked out of the cave, he saw the markings on the ships. They were not Academy vessels. They bore the symbol of the Varaxian Empire. They were Kaloth's people, and they were not here to rescue everyone. They were here for the princess. The human student saved the princess, and she chose him as her eternal guardian. Part 3. The binge. Varaxian ships landed in a clearing half a kilometer from the cave. Jinho watched them through the jungle foliage, counting the soldiers that emerged. 8 of them, all wearing the light combat armor of Varaxian special forces. These were not regular rescue workers. These were hunters. "Stay here," Jinho whispered to Valindra. "Keep Lady Marisol quiet. Do not move until I come back." Valindra grabbed his arm with 2 of her hands. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Where are you going? You cannot face them alone." "I am not going to face them," Jinho said. "I am going to watch. We need to know what they are doing." He slipped away before she could argue. Moving through the jungle was easier now that he knew what to expect. He had learned to read the sounds, to recognize which rustles were harmless and which meant danger. The predators seemed to avoid the area near the Varaxian ships, frightened by the noise and lights. Jinho climbed a tall tree and found a position where he could see the soldiers clearly. They had set up a command post near their ships. One of them was speaking into a communication device. Jinho could not hear the words, but he could read the soldiers' body language. He was receiving orders, nodding, pointing into the jungle in different directions. They were organizing a search pattern. They were looking for someone specific. Then Jinho heard a voice that made his blood run cold. Prince Kalos stepped out of the largest ship. He was still wearing his academy uniform, but he had added a weapon to his belt. A curved blade that glowed faintly with energy. "Find the princess," Kalos said. His voice carried easily through the quiet jungle. "She cannot have gone far. The Sarath are not built for survival. She will be helpless and grateful when you bring her to me." One of the soldiers asked a question. Kalos's response was casual, almost bored. "The others do not matter. If they get in the way, deal with them. We can blame the wildlife." Jinho felt his hands tighten on the tree branch. These soldiers were not rescuers. They were kidnappers, and they had permission to eliminate witnesses. He watched as the soldiers split into pairs and moved into the jungle. Two of them headed directly toward the area where Valindra was hiding. Jinho dropped from the tree and ran. He reached the cave before the soldiers did, but only barely. Valindra looked up with relief when she saw him, then fear when she saw his expression. "They are coming," Jinho said. "Two soldiers. They will find us in minutes. What do we do?" Jinho looked at Lady Marisol, still unconscious. They could not carry her and run. They could not hide well enough in the cave. There was only one option. "I will lead them away," he said. "That is foolish," Valindra said. "They will capture you. Or worse, they are not looking for me," Jinho replied. "They want you. If I make noise, draw their attention, they will follow me instead. You stay hidden. When they pass, go the other direction. Find the real rescue teams. The academy will send people. You just have to stay alive until then." Valindra stood up. All four of her arms were rigid at her sides. "I will not let you sacrifice yourself for me." Jinho met her eyes. "This is not your choice. It is mine." He turned and walked out of the cave before she could stop him. The jungle was full of sounds and shadows. Jinho moved deliberately now, making noise instead of avoiding it. He stepped on branches. He pushed through bush loudly. He was bait, and he needed the hunters to take it. It worked. He heard them coming. Two sets of footsteps, heavy and confident. They were not trying to be quiet. Why would they? They were trained soldiers hunting a defenseless student. Jinho ran. He led them away from the cave, deeper into the jungle. He jumped over roots and ducked under branches. His lungs burned. His legs screamed. But he kept moving. A shot of energy whizzed past his head and exploded against a tree. They were firing at him now. Not warning shots. Kill shots. Jinho dove into a ravine and rolled down the slope. Mud and rocks battered his body. He hit the bottom hard and lay there for a moment, gasping for breath. He could hear the soldiers climbing down after him. They were cursing in their language, angry that the primitive human was giving them trouble. Jinho forced himself to his feet and kept running. He did not know how long the chase lasted. It felt like hours. His body was pushed far beyond its normal limits. But humans were persistent hunters. Their ancestors had chased prey for days across the African plains. That endurance was still there, buried deep in his genes. The soldiers were faster in short bursts, but they tired more quickly. Their armored bodies were not designed for long chases. Eventually, Jinho lost them. He found a hollow beneath a fallen tree and squeezed inside, covering himself with leaves and mud. He could hear them searching nearby, their voices frustrated. Then his heart stopped. A new voice was speaking, quieter than the soldiers. But Jinho recognized it immediately. Princess Valindra. She had not stayed in the cave. She had followed him, and now they had her. Jinho crawled out of his hiding spot and crept toward the voices. He found them in another clearing. The two soldiers held Valindra between them. Her arms were bound with energy restraints. Her face was calm, but Jinho could see the fear in her eyes. One of the soldiers was speaking into his communicator. "We have the target. Bringing her to the command post now." "Excellent," came Kalos's reply. "Make sure she is not harmed. She needs to be presentable for the broadcast." Broadcast. Jinho understood immediately. They were going to force Valindra to record a message. Probably a distress call thanking Prince Kalos for saving her life. It would be played across the galaxy. It would create a political debt that her family could not refuse. Kalos would get what he wanted without technically breaking any laws, unless someone stopped him. Jinho had no weapons. He had no armor. He had nothing except his human body and his human stubbornness. It would have to be enough. He waited until the soldiers turned to lead Valindra away. Then he attacked. The first soldier never saw him coming. Jinho hit him in the back of the head with a rock, putting all his weight behind the blow. The soldier crumpled. The second soldier spun around, reaching for his weapon. Jinho tackled him before he could draw it. They went down in a tangle of limbs. The Viraxian was stronger. Much stronger. He threw Jinho off like he weighed nothing. Jinho hit the ground hard, the breath knocked out of him. The soldier stood over him, drawing his blade. "Stupid human. You should have stayed hidden." Jinho got up. The soldier cut him across the chest. Jinho stumbled, but did not fall. He got up again. Another cut. Across his arm this time. Blood poured down his skin. Jinho fell to one knee. He got up again. The soldier paused. There was something like confusion in his four eyes. He had never seen anything like this. Most species stayed down when they were beaten. They accepted defeat. They surrendered. Humans did not know how to surrender. Jinho charged. The soldier cut him again, but this time Jinho caught his arm. He twisted with everything he had left. Something cracked. The soldier screamed and dropped his blade. Jinho picked it up and drove it into the soldier's leg. Not a killing blow, but enough to bring him down. The soldier collapsed, clutching his wound. His partner was still unconscious. Jinho stood in the middle of the clearing, swaying on his feet. He was covered in blood, most of it his own. His vision was blurring. His body was failing, but he was still standing. Valindra stared at him with something that looked like wonder. Her restraints had fallen off during the fight. She ran to him and caught him before he could fall. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you keep getting up?" Jinho tried to smile. It probably looked terrible. "Because you needed help. And I was there." He collapsed into her arms as darkness took him. When he woke up, he was in the cave again. His wounds had been bandaged with strips torn from Valindra's gown. Lady Marisol was awake now, sitting beside him with concern on her face. Valindra sat at the cave entrance, watching the jungle. Her silver skin was dirty. Her hair was tangled. Her beautiful gown was ruined. She had never looked more real. "How long?" Jinho asked. "A few hours," Lady Marisol answered. "You lost a lot of blood. You should not be alive. The soldiers?" "Gone. They retreated when their patrol did not check in. The real rescue teams arrived shortly after. The Academy ships. They are evacuating survivors now." Jinho tried to sit up. Pain exploded through his body. He gasped and fell back. Valindra turned at the sound. She crossed the cave and knelt beside him. Her 4 hands touched his face gently. "You saved me," she said. A human student with no weapons, no training, no reason to risk his life. "You fought trained soldiers and won." "I was lucky," Jinho said. "No," Valindra replied. You were brave. Foolishly, impossibly brave. Before Jinho could respond, a shadow fell across the cave entrance. A massive figure blocked the light. Prince Kalos stepped inside. "Touching," he said. His voice dripped with contempt. "The princess and her pet. How sweet." His 4 eyes found Jinho, and something dark flickered in them. "You have interfered with my plans, human. That was a mistake. One you will not live to repeat." He drew his blade. "I challenge you to formal combat. Under galactic law, you cannot refuse. You will face me in the arena. And this time, there will be no one to save you." Jinho looked at the blade. Then at Valindra's terrified face. Then back at Kaloth. He had barely survived 2 soldiers. Kaloth was 10 times stronger and had trained for combat his entire life. But Jinho was human. The human student saved the princess, and she chose him as her eternal guardian. Part 4. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A human student had accepted a formal combat challenge from Prince Kaloth of the Viraxian Empire. Most people thought it was a joke at first. Then they realized it was real, and the joke became tragedy. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. They came from a small planet in an unimportant system. They had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Their bodies were soft and fragile. The idea of a human fighting a Viraxian prince was like watching a child fight a monster. The betting pools opened immediately. The odds against Jinho were astronomical. Some species did not even bother to bet. The outcome was already decided. Jinho spent his first day after returning to the academy in the medical bay. The doctors were amazed he was still alive. His wounds were serious. He had lost enough blood to kill most species. But his human body kept fighting, kept healing, kept refusing to give up. Princess Valindra visited him every day. She sat beside his bed and talked to him while he recovered. She told him about her home world, about the gardens that stretched for miles, about the festivals where her people danced under 3 moons, about the pressure of being born to rule an empire. She also tried to convince him to withdraw from the challenge. "There is a way," she said on the 3rd day. "If you admit wrongdoing and apologize publicly, the challenge can be cancelled. You will face punishment, perhaps a period of imprisonment, but you will live." Jinho looked at her. His face was still bruised, and his arm was wrapped in healing bandages. "What happens to you if I do that?" Valindra was silent. "Kaloth wins," Jinho answered his own question. "He proves that anyone who helps you will be crushed. No one will dare stand with you again. And eventually, he will get what he wants. That is not your burden to carry." "Maybe not, but I am carrying it anyway." Valindra's purple eyes filled with something Jinho could not identify. Frustration, maybe, or fear, or something else entirely. "You are the most stubborn creature I have ever met," she said. "I am human," Jinho replied. "We are all like this." On the 5th day, Jinho was released from the medical bay. He had 2 weeks before the formal combat. 2 weeks to prepare for a fight he could not win. He went to the academy training facilities and began to exercise, push-ups, running, basic combat drills. The other students watched him with pity. Some laughed openly. "The human thinks he can train his way to victory," a Cathari student said to his friends. "He should spend his last days enjoying life, not wasting them." Jinho ignored them. He kept training. The next day, someone unexpected came to watch him. Commander Thyron was the head of Academy Security. He was a Cathari warrior, one of the most decorated soldiers of his generation. He had fought in 3 major wars and survived them all. He had green scales that had turned gray with age and eyes that had seen too much death. He stood at the edge of the training area and watched Jinho work for an hour without saying a word. Then he walked onto the mat. "Your form is terrible," he said. Jinho stopped his exercise and looked at him. I know. You're going to die in that arena. Probably. Commander Theron tilted his head. Why did you accept the challenge? You could have refused. Faced imprisonment instead of death. Most would choose that path. Jinho wiped the sweat from his forehead. Do you have children, Commander? The question surprised Theron. Yes, 3. If someone threatened them, what would you do? I would destroy them. Jinho nodded. Princess Valindra is not my child. But when I saw her in that jungle, surrounded by soldiers who wanted to hurt her, something in me decided she was worth protecting. I do not know how to explain it better than that. Commander Theron studied him for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone watching. He took off his commander's insignia and placed it on the ground beside the mat. I am not here as Academy security, he said. I am here as a warrior who sees another warrior who refuses to surrender. Train with me. They trained. Commander Theron was not gentle. He pushed Jinho harder than anyone had ever pushed him. He showed him how to use his human body's strengths, how to turn his endurance into an advantage, how to absorb punishment and keep fighting. Viraxians are powerful, Theron explained during one session, but they expect quick victories. Their biology is designed for explosive force. They tire faster than they want to admit. If you can survive the first minutes, if you can make the fight last, their advantage shrinks. What about their armor plates? Jinho asked. I cannot punch through those. Then do not punch them. Hit the joints, the neck, the eyes. Every creature has weaknesses. The days passed quickly. Jinho trained until his body screamed for rest. Then he trained some more. Professor Len, an elderly scholar who taught xenobiology, came to see him one evening. The professor was ancient, with pale skin and too many eyes, but his mind was sharp as ever. I have been researching your species, Len said. Fascinating biology. Truly fascinating. Jinho was too tired to respond with more than a grunt. Do you know why most species in the galaxy fear Earth? Len asked. Jinho shook his head. Your planet is a death world. By galactic standards, Earth is one of the most hostile environments in the known universe. The gravity is higher than average. The temperature swings are extreme. The predators are vicious. The diseases are endless. And yet, humans survived. More than survived. You thrived. Len leaned closer. Your bodies are adaptation machines. You can eat almost anything. You can survive almost any environment. You can recover from injuries that would kill other species. And most importantly, you never stop. Other creatures run until they are tired. Humans run until their prey dies of exhaustion. You are persistence predators. The universe has never seen anything like you. He placed a gentle hand on Jinho's shoulder. Prince Kaloth thinks he's fighting a weak human. He does not understand what he is facing. The night before the duel, Princess Valindra came to Jinho's room. She did not knock. She simply walked in and stood before him. Her silver skin glowed softly in the dim light. Her forearms were folded across her chest. I have tried everything, she said. I contacted my father. I spoke with the Academy Council. I even petitioned the Galactic Court. Nothing can stop this fight. Jinho sat on his bed, wrapping his hands with combat tape. I did not ask you to stop it. I know. That is what makes this so frustrating. She walked closer. You are going to your death tomorrow. And you are completely calm. Not calm, Jinho admitted. Terrified. But terror does not change what must be done. Valindra sat beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. In all my life, she finally said, no one has ever protected me without wanting something in return. Advisors want power. Nobles want influence. Suitors want my crown. Everyone sees me as a tool to be used. She looked at him with those deep purple eyes. You are different. You ask for nothing. You expect nothing. You simply act. Jinho shrugged. Where I come from, we call that being decent. Thalindra laughed. It was a small sound, sad and beautiful at the same time. Perhaps humans are the most decent species in the galaxy. The universe just has not realized it yet. She reached out with one of her hands and touched his face. Her skin was cool against his. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, she said. But I want you to know something. Whatever happens, you have changed my understanding of what courage means. I will never forget that. She stood and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back one last time. When, she said. It was not a command. It was something closer to a prayer. Then she was gone. Jinho finished wrapping his hands and lay down on his bed. Tomorrow, he would face the most dangerous opponent he had ever encountered. Tomorrow he would probably die, but tonight he would rest. Because humans knew something that other species often forgot. The fight was not over until one side stopped getting updone, and Jinho had no intention of staying down. The human student saved the princess, and she chose him as her eternal guardian. Part 5. The arena was ancient. It had been built thousands of years ago by a species that no longer existed. The walls were carved from black stone, and the floor was smooth metal that had witnessed countless deaths. 20,000 seats surrounded the circular fighting pit, and every single one was filled. Beings from 100 different worlds had come to watch. Not because they expected an exciting match. They came to see history. The first human to ever participate in formal galactic combat. The first human to die in it. Cameras floated above the arena like mechanical birds. The duel was being broadcast to billions across the galaxy. On some worlds, people were placing final bets. On others, families gathered around screens to witness the spectacle. Prince Kaloth entered first. He walked through the champion's gate, and the crowd erupted in cheers. The Viraxians in attendance roared their approval. Even species that disliked the Viraxians respected their power. Kaloth was dressed in traditional combat armor. The plates covered his chest and shoulders, leaving his joints free for movement. His massive arms hung at his sides, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. He carried a traditional Viraxian blade, curved and glowing with energy. He raised the blade above his head, and the crowd cheered louder. Then Jinho entered through the challenger's gate. The arena fell silent. He was smaller than anyone expected. His simple combat uniform looked pathetic compared to Kaloth's armor. He carried no weapon. His hands were wrapped in plain tape. His face showed no expression. The silence turned to whispers. Then murmurs. Then outright laughter. A Viraxian noble in the front row shouted something in his language. Others picked up the chant. They were mocking him, calling him prey, calling him a joke. Jinho walked to the center of the arena and stood facing Kaloth. He did not react to the insults. He did not look at the crowd. His eyes never left his opponent. Princess Valindra sat in the observation box, reserved for nobility. Her hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles had turned pale. Lady Marisol sat beside her, equally tense. Commander Thyron stood at the back of the box. His old warrior's eyes studying the arena. Professor Len was somewhere in the crowd, recording everything for his research. The arena master, a neutral official from the Galactic Court, stepped forward. His voice boomed through the speakers. This is formal combat under galactic law. The duel continues until one combatant yields or is unable to continue. Killing is permitted, but not required. There will be no interference from outside parties. Any attempt to intervene will result in severe penalties. He looked at both fighters. Do you understand and accept these terms? I do, Kaloth said. His voice dripped with confidence. "I do," Jinho said. His voice was steady. The arena master stepped back. "Begin." Kaloth attacked immediately. He moved faster than anything that large should be able to move. His blade cut through the air in a wide arc aimed at Jinho's neck. It was a killing blow, designed to end the fight in seconds. Jinho ducked. The blade passed through the space where his head had been a moment earlier. Jinho rolled to the side and came up in a defensive stance. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. Kaloth laughed. "You are quick for a human. Good. I want this to last." He attacked again. Slash after slash. Thrust after thrust. Each blow was powerful enough to cut through armor. Each movement was perfectly executed. Kaloth had trained his entire life for moments like this. Jinho did not try to block. He could not match that strength. Instead, he dodged. He weaved. He moved in ways that human bodies were never supposed to move, pushing his flexibility to its absolute limit. The crowd began to murmur. This was not what they expected. The human should have been dead by now. "Stop running," Kaloth growled. "Face me like a warrior." Jinho did not respond. He kept moving, kept dodging, kept surviving. Commander Thyron had taught him well. Do not fight their fight. Fight your fight. Minutes passed. Kaloth's attacks remained powerful, but they were coming slightly slower now. His breathing was heavier. The armor that protected him also weighed him down. Jinho was tired too. His muscles burned. His lungs screamed for air. But his body was built for this. His ancestors had chased animals across grasslands for days. Endurance was in his blood. Kaloth finally connected. His blade caught Jinho across the shoulder, slicing through uniform and skin. Blood sprayed across the metal floor. Jinho stumbled and fell. The crowd roared. Kaloth stood over him, blade raised for the killing blow. "This is the end, human. Your species will remember this moment." The moment they learned their place. Jinho got up. Blood poured from his shoulder. His arm hung limply at his side. But he got up. Kaloth struck him again. Across the chest this time. Jinho went down hard. He got up again. The crowd fell silent. This was not normal. This was not natural. Creatures were supposed to stay down when they were beaten. They were supposed to yield. Kaloth hit him again. And again. Each blow should have been the end. Each time. Jinho got up. "Why?" Kaloth screamed. His composure was gone. His careful warrior's mask had cracked. "Why do you not fall? Why do you not yield?" Jinho swayed on his feet. His vision was blurry. His body was failing. But somewhere deep inside, something refused to break. "Because," he said through bloody teeth, "you have not beaten me yet." Something changed in the crowd. The mockery faded. The laughter stopped. Species that had considered humans worthless were watching with new eyes. This creature was broken, bleeding, dying, and still he stood. Kaloth attacked with renewed fury. He abandoned technique and strategy. He simply tried to destroy the thing in front of him that refused to die. But fury made him sloppy. His swings became wild. His footwork became predictable. Ho-weighted. Commander Thyron had told him that every creature had a moment of vulnerability. The key was surviving long enough to see it. There, Kaloth overextended on a powerful swing. His right side was exposed for just a second. Jinho moved. He did not have the strength for a powerful blow. But he did not need one. His fist found the gap between Kaloth's armor plates, right where the arm joined the shoulder. The joint was unprotected. The nerves beneath were sensitive. He hit it with everything he had left. Kaloth screamed. His arm went limp. His blade clattered to the floor. Jinho grabbed it. The weapon was heavy in his hands. It felt wrong, designed for someone much larger. But it would work. He swept Kaloth's legs. The massive warrior crashed to the ground. Before he could rise, Jinho had the blade at his throat. The arena was completely silent. 20,000 beings held their breath. "Yield," Jinho said. Kaloth stared up at him with all four eyes. Hatred burned in them, but also something else: fear. "I yield," he whispered. The arena erupted. The sound was deafening. Cheers and screams and roars of disbelief. Species that had never cared about humans were on their feet, shouting. This was impossible. This was unbelievable. This was history. Jinho stepped back from Kaloth. The blade dropped from his hands. His body had finally reached its limit. He could barely stand, but he had won. Kaloth rose slowly. His injured arm hung uselessly. His eyes never left Jinho. Then he moved. His good arm swung toward Jinho's back, claws extended. A killing strike aimed at someone who was no longer defending. Jinho had expected it. He turned and caught Kaloth's wrist. The energy blade was back in his other hand before anyone could blink. He pressed it against Kaloth's neck. "You yielded," Jinho said quietly. "In front of billions. If I kill you now, it will be justice, not murder." The crowd fell silent again. Kaloth froze. For the first time in his life, he understood that he was about to die. His power meant nothing. His rank meant nothing. This human held his life in bloody, trembling hands. "Please," Kaloth whispered. The words seemed to hurt him more than any wound. Jinho looked at him for a long moment. Then he lowered the blade. "Leave," he said, "and never come near her again." He let go of Kaloth's wrist. The prince stumbled backward, disbelief on his face. He had expected death. He had received mercy. Jinho turned away from him and looked up at the observation box. Valindra was standing at the railing, tears streaming down her silver face. The arena master's voice boomed through the speakers. "The challenger is victorious. The duel is concluded." Jinho tried to smile at her. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed to the floor as the world went dark. The human student saved the princess, as she chose him as her eternal guardian. Part 6. Jinho woke to white lights and soft beeping. He was in the medical bay again. His body was wrapped in bandages and connected to machines that pumped healing fluids into his veins. Everything hurt, but it was a distant pain, dulled by whatever medications they had given him. He turned his head and found Princess Valindra sitting beside his bed. She looked different. Not worse, just different. The careful mask of royal composure was gone. Her silver skin was bare of decoration. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked exhausted, like she had not slept in days. "How long?" Jinho asked. His voice was rough. 3 days, Valindra answered. "The doctors said it was a miracle you survived. They said your body should have shut down a dozen times during the fight." Jinho tried to laugh, but it came out as a painful cough. "Humans are stubborn." "Yes," Valindra said softly. "You are." She reached out and took his hand. Her cool fingers wrapped around his warm ones. She did not say anything else for a long moment. She just held his hand and watched him with those purple eyes. "Kaloth?" Jinho finally asked. Disgraced. The recordings of him breaking the yield went across every network in the galaxy. His family has withdrawn him from all public duties. He will never hold power again. Good. Another silence. Valindra seemed to be struggling with something. Her 4 free hands fidgeted in her lap. "There's something I must tell you," she said. "Something important." "I am not going anywhere," Jinho replied. Valindra took a deep breath. "In 3 days, there will be a ceremony. The Galactic Court has requested it. My father has given his approval. News agencies from every major system will be there. What kind of ceremony? Valindra looked at him. Her eyes were bright with something he could not name. I am going to choose my eternal guardian. Jinho was quiet. He remembered the conversations he had overheard at the academy. The ancient tradition. The highest honor in Sarth culture. A companion and protector for life. That is a big decision, he said carefully. It is the biggest decision I will ever make. Valindra squeezed his hand. The eternal guardian is more than a bodyguard. More than an advisor. They become family. They stand beside the heir through everything. When I become queen, my guardian will be there. When I face challenges, my guardian will face them with me. Until death separates us. Sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is. Valindra leaned closer. That is why I must choose someone I trust completely. Someone who has proven they will stand for me without expecting anything in return. Someone who faces impossible odds and refuses to fall. She paused. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. I choose you, Park Jinho. Jinho stared at her. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. Or perhaps the medications were causing hallucinations. Me? You. I am human. I am nobody. I have no power, no wealth, no connections. Your people will never accept me. Valindra smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen from her. Not the polite diplomatic expression she wore in public. A genuine, warm, slightly sad smile. You are wrong, she said. You are the human who saved me when no one else would. You are the human who fought a prince and won through sheer will. You are the human who had every reason to kill his enemy and chose mercy instead. She lifted his hand and pressed it against her cheek. Her skin was cool and smooth. My people will learn to accept you, she continued. Because I will make them. Because you earned this. Because there is no one else in this entire galaxy that I would trust with my life. Jinho closed his eyes. He was just a student. A quiet, overlooked exchange student from a planet that most species did not respect. This was not supposed to happen to people like him, but it was happening. What if I say no? He asked. Then I will respect your decision. Valindra's voice was steady, but he could hear the fear beneath it. I will not force you into a life you did not choose. If you want to return to Earth, to live a normal life, I will make sure you get there safely. You owe me nothing. Jinho opened his eyes and looked at her. Really looked. Past the silver skin and the alien features. Past the title and the power. He saw a young woman who had spent her entire life surrounded by people who wanted to use her. A woman who had finally found someone she could trust and was terrified of losing him. I did not say I would refuse, he said. I just wanted to know if I had a choice. Valindra's breath caught. And? Jinho smiled. It hurt his face, but he did it anyway. I told you before. Where I come from, we call protecting others being decent. If you want me beside you, then beside you I will stand. The ceremony took place in the Great Hall of the Galactic Court. Thousands attended in person. Billions watched through screens across 100 worlds. It was the most watched event in galactic history. Princess Valindra walked down the central aisle in traditional, Sorath ceremonial robes. Her silver skin glowed under the lights. Her four arms moved with perfect grace. She was beautiful and powerful. An utterly composed dot at the end of the aisle stood representatives from dozens of noble families. Princes and warriors and diplomats. Each one hoped, despite everything, that she might choose them. She walked past all of them without a glance. Jinho stood at the far end of the hall, near the back where observers normally waited. He wore a simple black suit, the best the Academy could provide on short notice. His wounds were still visible, bandages peeking out from his collar and sleeves. The crowd parted as Valindra approached him. Whispers filled the hall. She stopped before him and looked into his eyes. He looked back. Park Jin-ho of Earth, she said, her voice carrying through the silent hall. I ask you to become my eternal guardian, to stand beside me through every trial, to protect my life with your own, to be my family when blood family fails, to walk with me until death separates us. She extended one hand toward him, palm up, a gesture of offering and request. Will you accept? Jin-ho looked at her hand, then at her face, then at the thousands of beings watching them. He placed his hand in hers. I will. The hall erupted in chaos. Some cheered. Some protested. Some simply stared in disbelief. A human. She had chosen a human. Lady Marisol stepped forward with the traditional binding cloth, a strip of golden fabric that would be tied around their joined hands. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes sparkled with something like approval. Commander. Thyron watched from the security position he had insisted on taking personally. The old warrior nodded once at Jin-ho, a sign of respect between soldiers. Professor Len was scribbling furiously in his notebook, already planning his research papers. The binding cloth wrapped around their hands. The ceremony was complete. In the gallery, news commentators struggled to explain what they had just witnessed. This would change everything. The relationship between humans and the galactic community. The perception of Earth as a primitive backwater. The understanding of what it meant to be worthy. But Jin-ho was not thinking about any of that. He was thinking about the woman beside him. The woman who had seen him when everyone else looked past him. The woman who had trusted him when she had every reason not to. What happens now? He asked quietly. Valindra smiled that real smile again. Now we face the future together. Any regrets? Not one. They walked out of the hall together, hand in hand. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and unknown and full of challenges. There would be enemies to face, politics to navigate, 1,000 obstacles that neither of them could predict, but they would face them together. Because a princess had looked across a galaxy full of powerful beings and chosen a quiet human student. Not for his strength or his wealth or his connections. For his heart. For his courage. For his stubborn human refusal to ever give up. And somewhere, across all those billions of screens, people were learning a new truth about humanity. They were small. They were young. They were new to the galactic stage. But when they chose to protect someone, nothing in the universe could make them stop.